Hello my friends and welcome to this tutorial. We're going to build a weather map in this one. This is a simple weather map, and if I type in a place, okay, like London, and I hit the submit key, right, it's going to get the weather details for London. So it's going to get the city. There's this weather icon first, and then there is a date property, and then it's going to get the temperature, the weather, and the temperature range. Okay, so let's do another one. So I'm just going to do Lagos, and instead of clicking on the submit key, I'm just going to hit enter, and then you see that it gets the weather details for Lagos. All right, so there's one more thing. If I type in something that is invalid, okay, like this, and I hit enter, then I get this notification here that says please enter a valid city. Okay, all right, so let's do New York and hit enter, and as you can see, there is going to be rain in New York, and these are the weather details. So really there are other details we can add to the weather map, but these are just the basics. Okay, all right, so let's get into it. So what do we have here? First off, let me minimize this. Okay, and basically what I have here is a simple index.html, styles.css, and script.js. okay, so we are going to take some time to write the markup for this. Okay, so just brace up and let's do this. So let's start by adding a div with a class of main container. Okay, so I'm going to open this up in live server so we can see what we've done. Okay, so basically this is what we have so far. All right, so let's continue. Below this, we're going to add a paragraph with a class of error, and we'll say please enter a valid city. Okay, I think that's fine. Or maybe for now I'm just going to leave it blank because we'll put in that with JavaScript. Okay, so let's create another section. So for the span, I'm just going to do degree, and to do degree on my computer, I think, let me just check this. So it's alt 0176. Okay, so I'm just going to press that. Okay, so that's how I do degree on my computer. Okay, all right, so All right, so basically this is what we have so far on our page. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to style this very quickly. Okay, so let's just go to our styles.css and let's begin. So I'll just add a reset, and regular reset I'll say margin 0, and padding also 0, and the box sizing is going to be set to border box. I would quickly get the body tag and I'll give it a background, and I'm just going to use the linear gradients. Okay, and I'll say to right bottom, right. So let's add a comma here, and basically I'll just grab the color code, right, instead of actually typing it out. So the first color is going to be this. Okay, I'll add a comma and I'll grab the second color code, and the second one is going to be this. Okay, and I'll save. Okay, so let's continue. So let's do a font family of, I'm just going to do Arial and sans serif. Okay, let's do a width of 100%, and let's duplicate that for the height, and let's just say 100 VH for the height, and that should fix our background repeat problem, I think. Okay, so that does that. Let's do a display. So let's center everything inside of the body. So let's do a display of flex, and let's do justify content to center. Save that, and yeah, let's also align items to center, and voila, so we have it in the middle. Okay, so let's target the container first. So let me just say that's container, and I'll just do a width of 100% and a max width. Well, I may not need to add a max width here, so I can add that in the main container, right? But first, let's start by setting a display of flex, right? And let's justify content to center. Okay, let's also align items to center. Okay, and let's do a flex direction, and let's set it to column. Okay, all right, let's proceed to give it a width of 100% of its container, but then we're going to give it a max width of, ouch, so that should be max width of, I'm going to say 320 pixels, and I'll save. Then let's go ahead and give it a height. So I'll give it a height of 80% of the viewport height, and let's do background. So we're going to use a background image. So we have a background image. Okay, so let's go into our images folder, and it's just one image, weather.png. Okay, so that is what we basically have. Okay, okay, for the background, let's go ahead and say no repeat, and let's do center for the background position. Let's set the background size to cover. Let's set a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, I'll save that. Okay, so it's looking okay. Of course, I would like to set the overflow, so overflow hidden, and subsequently I'll be needing the position to be relative. Okay, so I'll save that. All right, so this looks okay. All right, let's add a before pseudo element. So I would say the main container, and I would this should be main container and before. Okay, so let's do content. For the content, we're going to set it to an empty content, and let's do position of absolute, and let's say that from the what am I doing? Let's say from the left we want it to be 0 from the left, and from the top we want it to be 0. We want it to have a width of 100%, and same for the height. So let's just duplicate that. Okay, then we want a background, so let's just do a linear gradient here. So I'll just say linear gradient, and I'll set it to bottom. Okay, I'll add a comma. I'll just come to the next line so that so that everything is nicely spaced. Okay, so I'll do RGBA, and I'll set the first one to 0. So this black color. Okay, and I'll make it completely transparent. I'll add a comma here, and I'll set the second one to RGBA, and let's just do 0 0 0, and let's do let's just do 0.6. Okay, and let's save. Okay, all right, so I think we're done with that. So now let's get the class for the first aspect of the container, this div with a class of container and top. Okay, so I'm going to get the top class, so I'll say dot top, and let's just do text align to center, right? And let's set the color. Well, maybe not the text align, maybe not the color, maybe just the text align. And let's do for the h1, so I'll say the top and h1, and let's set the color. I'll just set it to white, so it's easier for me to just type out white. And I'll set a line height of 2 and save. Okay, so this is what we have basically. All right, so let's get and style the input button. So I'll just scroll down a little, and let's just do dot top, and the first is input, right? But the input is going to have some similarities with the button, so let's just duplicate this and change this to button. Okay, and let's add some stuff. So let's first set our display to block, right? Let's do a width of 80%, so that's 80%. Let's do a margin of 0 and auto to center it properly. Okay, so that's what we have. Let's do some padding, so I'll just do a padding of 10 px all around. Let's set some margin on the bottom, and let's just do 5 px. Let's do the outline and set it to none. Outline and none. Let's do the border and also set it to none and save. Okay, so this is what we have, and it doesn't look fantastic. We want it to be properly centered. Let's see, and that is because there's a mistake with one of our properties. So let's just look at it. So I think it looks like this should be margin bottom, so hyphen bottom. And all right, so when we save, you see that it's properly centered now. Okay, so I think we can continue. So let's target the top input and give it its own unique styles. So I'm just going to see dot top, so that should be dot top and input. So let's give it a background color. Let's set the background color to RGBA, and let's go with one of these black, but I'm just going to make it 0.5 and I'll save. Okay, so that seems okay. Let's do a border bottom and let's set it to solid and 2px. Then ouch, that should be 2px and green. Let's do a border radius of npx and 0. So I'm just going to copy this and duplicate it, and then I'll save. Okay, so basically this is what we have here. All right, so let's do text align. So text hyphen align, and let's set it to center. Okay, so before I save, if I click here, right, okay, something is wrong here, it's not clicking, but we'll figure that out. Okay, so let me just save this. Sorry, let me save this. Okay, so it aligns the text in the center. Okay, all right, I know why this guy is not clickable. That's because of the let me show you, because of the before class we set here. Okay, so it's almost like it's covering the opacity of this before class. It's, you know, covering these guys. If I take away the before class and I save, let's come here, you see that it's now clickable. Okay, although the color is black, the color of the text. So but don't worry, we're going to fix all of that. Let's just finish up. All right, so let's continue. So let's do font size. So font Z of 14 pixels. All right, so we're going to set some other properties. So first, what I'll do is I'll say the top and I'll say focus, right? That should be input and focus, right? So we're just going to give it a color, right? That should be color, and I'm just going to say white, and let's increase the font size just a little bit, and I'll say 15px. Okay, then I'm then going to say dot top and input placeholder. So input placeholder, and the only thing I want to do is I want to give it a color of RGBA, and I will just say 255. So 255, 255, 255, and I'll say 0.5, and I'll save. Okay, so that brings out the placeholder. Okay, so what do we do next? Let's style the button. Okay, so I'll say dot top and button. Let's give it a background color, and I'm just going to grab the background color. No need to type it out, I can just copy it and place it there. Let's save. All right, so that's the background color we chose. Let's give the button text a color of white, and let's give it a font size of 14px. Let's add a font weight. So I'm just going to say font weight of bold. That's because I did not import any fonts. Let's do text transform to uppercase. Let's do border radius of 3px, so that's a little bit rounded at the borders. So let's save. Okay, let's do cursor, right, and set it to pointer, and let's do transition and all 0.3 seconds. Okay, so I'm sure you already figured out that when we're setting transition, it's because we want to set a hover class for the button, a hover pseudo class. So that's going to be dot hover, and basically we're just going to make the background color, so CK, just make it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to grab the color, and I'll just place that there and save. So you see, oh, ouch, my before pseudo element is still, you know, affecting stuff here. Okay, I guess let me see if I can fix that early, or if I should just wait. So I'm simply just going to go up and get my, so here I'll just give it a z index. So let's just do z index of 0 and I'll save. Okay, so then I still have to give this input, so this top, I think, a z index of 999 just to make it more. Okay, all right, so that's fixed. So if I hover on this guy here, you see that the color changes. Okay, and then I can type here. All right, so that seems okay. I think we can continue adding some styles. So let me just come down here, and I think we are at the point where we need to add a style for the error message. So I'll say dot top and dot error, and basically I'll just say, I'll give it a color of white and a font size of 14 pixels. Okay, let's do, okay, so next I think what we need to style is the icon, although we are not seeing it now, but I think we can still add the style. So I'll say dot icon, or no, well, icon, yeah, that's okay. So dot icon, and I'll say text align, I'll set it to center, and I'll say padding. I think the padding was just for the top, and I'll set it to 15 px. Okay, so let's get the location, and let's just do padding hyphen bottom to 15 px as well. Let's do text align to center, and let's do color to white, and line height to 1.6, and save. Okay, that's for these guys here. Okay, so let's just modify the location, the city rather. I'll say dot location dot city, and I'm just going to say font size, so font Z of 18 pixels. So that'll be 18, or we can even make it 20 pixels. Let's just make it a little bit bigger, and let's do font weight of bold and save. Okay, so let's get the current class. So I'll say dot current, and I'll give it a width of 100%, and I'll give it a position of relative, and I'll say padding top right of 10 px, and then I'll give it a color of white. So that should be white. Okay, so this is what we have basically. Now I want to add a line under this section here. Okay, so what I'll just do is I'll just say dot current and before, right, pseudo element, and I'll say content and set it to an empty string. Let's do position absolute, and ouch, from the top, let me just bring this down a little. So from the top I want it to be 0, and from the left, right, ouch, there should be a, okay, so from the left I want it also to be 0, and I want to give it a width of 100% and a height of, let's just do 2 px. Okay, and let's do a background color of white. I know we're using a lot of white here, but okay, so maybe 100% is kind of much, so let me just reduce that to maybe like 20%. Oh, I know why it's this much. So what we need to do to make this just occupy like 80%, I think, let's just go to the container class. Okay, and that is because if you look at our markup, the container class actually houses everything. Okay, so I'll go to my container class just here, and I'll change the width from 100 to 80%, and I'll save. Okay, we may need to center everything, so let's do a margin of 0 and auto and save. Okay, so everything is nicely centered. Okay, let's come back to our, and I think I'm going to make the height 1 pixels and see what that looks like. Okay, so this looks better. Right, so let's, for my class, this current class here, I want this weather data to be aligned to the left. So I'll just come here and I'll say text align, and I'll set it to left and save. Okay, so yeah, this is fine. All right, so let's add some more style. So I think the next thing we need to do is just one more thing. We just need to add a dot current, and we'll say that we want to style all the children. So I'll just do this, and I would say padding bottom, padding hyphen bottom, and I'll just say 10 px, and I'll save. Okay, so you see that it spreads everything out nicely. Okay, so I think this looks very similar to what we have here. Let me refresh. Okay, so it looks similar to what we have here. All right, so I think we're good to go. So now what we need to do is we need to add some logic using JavaScript. So that should, let's just come to our JavaScript file, and let's make sure that our script file is linked. Okay, so it is. So in our JavaScript file, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a so let's add an object. So I'll say const, and I'll say API. Or before I actually do this, I need to go to open weather map and show you what we are doing. So I'll just come here and I'll search for open weather map, and I'll click on this. Okay, so basically to use open weather map, right, you need to actually sign up. Okay, so I'm signed up to open, I have an account basically, and when you sign up, you can you get an API key. So if I click on my account here, I'll click on my API key, and you see that I have an API key. Okay, so basically this is the key you need to access open weather map data. Okay, so they also have this documentation here. So if you click on API, right, you can just go to API docs, and you can probably just read a little bit about their documentation before you start. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is the instruction given in their documentation. Okay, so yeah, so that's it. So I'm just going to close this out and come back to my app, and let's come here. So first off, I'll create an object for the API, and first I'll say key, right, and I'll set it to my key. Okay, so I'll just grab my key here, or I already have it written out somewhere, so I think I can just copy it and paste it in. Okay, so you actually need to create your own key. If you don't, then if you don't create your own key, then this key is not going to work, because there is a limit to how you can use the key and stuff like that. So you actually need to create your own key and use your own key. Okay, all right, so let's do base, and for the base I'm going to add a, so let me just grab the URL for that, and I'm just going to paste that in. I'm simply missing my equal sign. Okay, so apologies for that. All right, so what we need to do is first we're going to create a variable. So I'll just say const and search, right, and I'll set it to be equal to document dot query selector, right, and I'm just going to get the search class. So I'll say dot search. Okay, and I'll close that up, and I'll just duplicate this, and this time I'm going to get the button, so btn, and I'll change this to btn. Okay, then I'll then create an event listener. So I'll say btn dot add event listener, and it's just going to be my regular click event, right, and let's add a get input function. So get input, right, and what I'll do now is I'll come down here and I'll create the function. So I'll say function, and get input, and I'm going to pass an event parameter here, and I'll simply just say first, what I'll do first is I'll say that when you click on the submit button, right, I don't want the page to actually refresh. Okay, so there are two ways you can actually do that. The first is in our index.html, but I just wanted to show you how to do that with JavaScript. So on submit, return false actually does that. It prevents the page from reloading when you hit the submit button. So but on our script.js, what we can do is using JavaScript, you can just say event, and you can say dot prevent default, right? And you just, so you can use this method, and this would also prevent the page from reloading. So but what I really want to do is I'll add an if statement, right? So let me just do this. So I'll say if event dot type is equals to submit, or no, is equals to click, right? So basically I'm saying that if the event associated with this event listener is click event, and basically that's what it's going to be, what do I want? I want to get data, right? So that's not what I want. So I want to get data, and let's pass in search dot value. Okay, all right, so I think I can close this up, and basically if I do a console.log and I just put in search dot value, let me save this and let me close this up. So let's see what happens. So I'll just open this up, and I would open up my browser my console, and let's click on console, and the value is invalid. So let me just add something here. So let me say London, get data is not, oh sorry, get data is not defined yet. So I actually need to define get data function. Okay, so let me just go back. So that's this get data here. So right, what I can do is I can just come down here and say function, and I'll say get data, and basically this is where we use our fetch method to fetch our API. So I would say fetch, right, and let's open a bracket, and let's use our template literal. So I'll do this, and inside of this I would say, so I'll first get the API URL, which is this guy here. So I would say api.base, right, and then I'll say whether. So basically this is based on the documentation and the instructions from Open Weather Map. Okay, so it's not like I'm manufacturing it from anywhere. So I'll say whether, and it's equals to, I'll set it to search.value. So search.value, and then I'll say and units. So basically I just want to get the units for the temperature in Celsius. So the way you do that is you set the unit equals to metric. Okay, and then you then have to add your app ID. So what you just do is you say and app ID, and you set it to be equal to, so let's say dollar, and API dot key. Okay, so let's save that, and but we're not done here. So what we don't do is we say dot then, right, and let's, so we then get a response. So when we are getting this data, we are looking for a response from the Open Weather Map API. Okay, so we say response, and then we set it to return something. right? So basically we set it to return something that is in a JSON format. So I'll say response.json. Okay, so this should actually be small letter r, and this should be response. Okay, so that was just a small typo. And then I'm just going to, all right, so what we then do next, we then say dot then. So we're not done really, so we say dot then, and then we say, oh, that's not what I wanted to do, and then we say display data. So we're going to have to create a function for displaying our data. So what we need to do is we need to create a function for the data display. So I'll say function display data, right? And I'm going to pass the response parameter into this, and then I'll grab this guy here and I'll place it here. Okay, and then I'll save. Okay, so now I think if I expand this and inspect, and here if I say something like London, which is a city, and I click, let's come to our console.log, and you see here that we have, ignore this error you see here, it's not important, but you see here that we have this data here. Okay, so basically this is the response that we want from that API. Okay, so things like the coordinates, the weather, the name of the city, okay, the country, and stuff like that. So these are basically this is like an array of data, okay, that we've gotten from the weather map API. Okay, so now we're going to see how we can place this data in strategic points on our code. Okay, so I'm just going to close this up, and let's, oh sorry, let me just see that error that was there. So console uncut error sac on 14. Okay, I think I made a mistake, typographical error. So let me just see on line 14. Okay, so this should be search.value. Okay, and I'll save. Okay, all right, so let's continue. So what we're going to do is, first off, I think I should comment this out. Okay, so we're going to see how we can slot in some of the data inside of the our app. Okay, so but what I'll do is I'll say if, and I'll say response, right, dot code is equals to, and I'll say 404. So basically I'm saying that if we have an error, okay, I want you to display something. Okay, so first I'll create a variable for our error. So I'll say error. So I guess I have to just type that out. So I'll create a variable and I'll set it to be equals to document dot query selector. So I'll just see, and I'll just get my error class. So I'll say dot error. Let's close that up. Okay, so what we'll then do is we'll say error dot text content, and I'm going to set it to be equals to please enter a valid city. And let's close that up. So let's save and let's try that out. So I'll just come here and I'll just enter some text and let's see. So it says please enter a valid city, but as you can see the text is black, but it still shows there. So what we're going to do is we are going to say that we want this input to clear out. Okay, so what I would say is I would say search dot value, and I'll set it to be equals to an empty string, and I'll save. So if we go ahead and type in some dummy text, you see that it gives us please enter a valid city, and then it clears out the search field. Okay, all right, so let's add our else statement, which is where we will then So I'll say else, and okay, so the first thing in our else statement is I'll get the city, okay, which is this guy here. So I would say city, I'll say const and city, and I'll set it to be equals to documents dot query selector, and I'll just get my city. So my city is in my location class, I think. So I would say dot location. I can actually just say dot city actually, but so let me just say dot city because we have just one on the page. Okay, so but this should be inside of double quotes. So I'll say dot city, and I'll then say city dot inner text, inner text, and I'll set it to be equals to, and let's use our template literal. So we're just going to say, so this is how you do it. You say dollar and you then say response.name. So the response.name is going to actually be the name of the city itself. Okay, I'll add a comma and I'll say dollar response dot sys, okay, before country. Okay, so basically I think we should save this and try it out so we can see. So basically what we have, the default we have here is New York. So I'm just going to search for London and I'll hit enter, and as you can see it has grabbed the data for the city and the country. Okay, so basically that's how you just slot in your data all over the place. So what we're going to do is let's place in the date. Okay, so for the date I'm simply just going to say const, and I'll say today is equals to new date. Okay, so let's close that up and let's say const date. Let's set it to be equals to document dot query selector, and let's get our dot date, and we can close that up, and we'll then say date dot inner text, and let's set it to be equals to a date function that we're going to create in the future. So I'll just say date function. Okay, and I'll just pass in my today inside of it, and I'll save. Okay, so that's not really going to do anything for now until we create our date function. We're going to do that at the end. So but what I'll do next is I'll create I'll slot in my temperature. So I would say, so let's first create the variable. So I'll say const, and instead of typing this out, I think I can just copy this guy here and just have it. Okay, so I'll just paste that in and change the variable. So I'll just say temp, and I'll just say temp here. Okay, right, then I'll say temp, right, dot inner html this time, and I'll set it to be equals to, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm first going to say temp, and I'll do this, and then I'll then put in my, so first we're going to use the math.random function. So I'll say method rather, so I'll say math, right, math.round, and then I will then pass in my response. So I'll say response dot main dot temp. Okay, and let's just add our degree. So I would say span, or basically I think I can just come to my index.html and copy my span class. So for here, I'll just come here and I'll just copy this and I'll come here and I'll paste it in. Okay, and I'll save. Okay, so let's try it out and see. So let's do London and hit enter. Okay, so I don't think anything changed here for our temperature. So let me just find out what exactly the problem is. So mainly just looking at my code, I think I see it. So it should be dots instead of a comma. Okay, so I'll save that and I'll do London one more time and submit. I think at this point we need to inspect. So let me just inspect and see. Okay, so I'll check my console. Oh, apologies, I have not created a date function, so it's throwing up an error. So maybe I should just create my date function very quickly. So I'll just come outside of this guy here and I'll say function and I'll say date function. Okay, and I'll give it a parameter of d. Let's open this up and then I'll say let month and I'll create an array. I'll say equals to, okay, so basically I will just add in all the months, so January to December. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that instead of having to type out January to December. You don't have to watch me type so much, so I'll just copy that and paste that in. Okay, so that's January, and then I would say let month and then I'll just copy in all of the days rather. So I'll change that to days. Let me just grab it. So let's make these days, right? And then we can just paste in our days. Okay, all right, so I think that's fine. So let's come down here and say that let day be equals to days, and let's open this up and say d dot get day. So that's d dot get day function, and then we can close that up. Okay, so basically I'm just going to duplicate this for 3 times and I'll change this to date, and I'll also change this to date, right? And then I'll also change this to, oh, but for this date here we don't need this guy, so we can just say d dot get date. Okay, and I'll change this to month, so I'll say month, and I'll change this to months d dot, and this will be d dot get month. And for the last one I'll just change this to year, and this is going to be d dot get year. Okay, so basically what we just need to do is to return something. So I'll just say return, right? And so let's start by getting the day. So I would say dollar and I'll say day, right? Let's add a comma here, and then I'm just going to get the other aspect. So I'll just paste that in, and I'll paste that in. one more time. So this is going to be year, this is going to be month, this is going to be date. Okay, but before we save this, I see that there are a few things I may need to correct. So this let months should actually be let months plural, and the year should be actually get full year. So that was just a silly mistake from me. So full year, and the year should be capital letter. Okay, and I think we're good to go from here. So I can save, and let's just type in like a city. So I have actually changed the address here to Thursday, December 26th. Okay, so let's do London, and let's just see. So I'll submit, and as you can see, it's Thursday 26th of November, not December. Okay, so basically that's our function here we have. So what we can do now is we can just add the other aspects of the this thing of the app. Okay, so the temperature also works. So you see the temperature is 7 degrees Celsius. Okay, all right, so what we need to do next is we need to add the weather information. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to come here, I'll just copy this, and I'll just come down here, and I'll change this to, I think, weather, and I'll change this to weather as well. So then I'll say weather dot inner text. So that should be inner text, and I'm just going to set that to, so let's use this guy here, and we're just going to say weather, right? And let's get the weather response. So I'll say dollar, and I'll open up my curly braces, and then I'll say response dot weather. Okay, and then we'll just do this, and we'll say 0, and we'll then say dot main. Okay, that's to get the current weather. Okay, and then I'll save, and hopefully, I think if I save, if I let's search for London and hit enter, and as you can see, the weather has changed to clouds. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is we need to get the temperature range. Okay, so we're going to create another variable. So I'll just come down here, and I'll just paste in my, and this time I'll just say temperature range. Okay, so that's temp range rather, and then I'll come here, and I think the class is temp range, temp hyphen range. Okay, so what I can do then is I can then say temp range dot inner text, and I'll set it to be equal to, and I'm just going to first say temp range, so temp space range, and then I'll then say, of course I'm still going to use my math.random function, but let's just do that one after the other. So I'll see math.round. I keep saying math.random, it's actually math.round. Okay, and let's open up a bracket, and let's get the mean temperature. So I would say response dot main dot temp mean. So that's temp underscore mean, right? And I'm just going to add my degree Celsius. So I think I can just copy that. So I'll just come here, and I'll copy degree Celsius. I'll come back here, and I'll paste that in. Okay, and then I'll add a, oh, I should close this, should actually probably be outside, so I'm going to cut that, and I'll paste it outside here. Okay, and then I'll say dollar, and open up my curly braces, and I think I can just copy this. Okay, so I can just copy this, and basically the only thing I'm going to change is the temp max. Okay, so I'll come here, and I'll say temp max. Okay, and I think that's it. Okay, so what I need to do is I also need to put in my degree Celsius. So I'll just copy that also. I'll come outside here and I'll paste that in, and let's add our closing and we'll save. So let's go ahead and search for London and let's see. So you can see here that the temp range actually works now. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my icon. Okay, so basically let's just come down here. The icon actually comes up, so I guess we should have put it up, but I mean we can put it anywhere we want. So I can just say const, and I'm going to say weather icon. So I'm going to say weather icon, and I'm going to set it to be equal to, I should have just copied this guy here to save time. So I'll come here and I'll paste that in, right? And I'm going to, what I'm targeting here is the weather hyphen icon, and I'll just change this to icon. Okay, so I'll then, but then I'll create another variable. I'll say const, and I'll say icon URL, and I'll set it to be equal to, so I'm just going to copy the icon URL. There's no need to type it out, so let's just copy it and paste it in. So I'll paste that in. Okay, and then I'll close up. So that's fine, I think. And basically what we're going to do now is we're going to say weather icon dot src. So we just want to change the source, and I'm going to set it to icon URL, right, plus, and I'll say response, right, the weather, and let's do dot icon. Okay, and then I'm going to concatenate that with the png. So I'll just do this and I'll say dot png. Okay, and I think I can close this and let's save. Okay, and I think if we search, let's go London, or let's just do Lagos. So you see that we have this icon here. Okay, so clouds. All right, so basically I think we're done with the project. So there's one more thing we need to do, and that's when we get a valid result, we want to make this guy empty, and I'm sure you already know how we do that. We just say search dot value, and we're going to set it to an empty string, and let's save. So let's do London one more time, and if we click on submit, we click on enter, you see that the search field is empty and we have the details. Okay, so clouds, temperature range and stuff like that. So you can go ahead and actually go through the documentation of the open weather map. Okay, and you can add more details. So let me just open this up. You can add more details to your application. Okay, but for now this is what we have learned in the tutorial. So if you like content like this and you're not subscribed to my channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe right away. Thank you so much and see you in another video.